When you see your child struggling with something like reading, it's just incredibly worrying. You want to help so badly, but it can be really hard to figure out where to even begin. So that's what this is all about. Think of this as a straightforward guide for parents who are wondering if their child might have dyslexia. We're going to walk through the signs, the actual steps to getting a diagnosis, and what you can do to provide the best support right from your own home. Do any of these questions sound familiar? I bet they do. These are the kinds of thoughts that can keep you up at night. You see this bright, amazing, curious kid, and yet they're struggling with something that seems to come so easily to everyone else. First thing to know, you are absolutely not alone. And asking these very questions is the most important first step you can take. So, to find those answers, we've got to start with the basics. Let's get really clear on what dyslexia is, and maybe even more importantly, what it isn't. Okay, so what are we really talking about? At its core, dyslexia is a really common learning difference. The key thing is that it's neurobiological, meaning it's about how the brain is wired. It specifically makes it tough to read, write, and spell accurately and fluently. But I want you to focus on that last part of the sentence, despite normal intelligence. This is probably the most important thing I'm going to say. Let's get this straight right now. Dyslexia has absolutely nothing to do with how smart your child is. So many people with dyslexia are incredibly bright, creative, and intelligent. Their brain is simply wired differently when it comes to processing language. That's it. So how does this different wiring actually show up in school? Once your child starts formal school, around ages 6 to 10, the signs of dyslexia can become a lot more obvious. Knowing what to look for is really the key here. So let's dive into some of the specific clues you might be noticing. This is one of the classic signs, the one most people have heard of. It's that consistent confusion between letters that look alike, like B and D, or flipping numbers like 6 and 9. Maybe your child writes was, but it comes out as saw. Now, a lot of young kids do this from time to time, but with dyslexia, it's a pattern that just doesn't seem to go away. Now, when it comes to the act of reading itself, the challenges get really specific. You might notice that their reading is just incredibly slow, with a lot of long pauses. They might skip over small words, or their eyes might even jump to a completely different line on the page. Trying to sound out a new word, that can be a huge struggle. And those simple sight words they've seen 100 times, it's like they're seeing them for the first time. The result of all this is that even if they manage to get through a paragraph, they often can't tell you what they just read. And of course, writing can feel just as frustrating for them. It's not just about reversing letters. You might see them spell the exact same word 3 different ways on a single page. Maybe they add letters that aren't there or leave important ones out. A lot of times, their handwriting can be very messy, and you might see capital letters popping up right in the middle of words for no apparent reason. And the effects of dyslexia aren't just limited to reading and writing. The challenges can be broader and sometimes show up in surprising ways. Things like a persistent confusion between left and right, or having a really hard time learning to tell time on an old-school analog clock. Even remembering simple sequences, like the days of the week in the right order, can be a real struggle. So if you're nodding along and seeing some of these signs in your child, the big question is, what's next? The whole idea of getting a diagnosis can feel really intimidating, but I promise you, it's a clear process that you can manage. Let's just walk through it together, step by step. And here's why taking that next step is so important. All the research is crystal clear on this. The sooner you identify it, the sooner you can get the right support in place. And early support is way more effective. It can truly make a world of difference, not just for their schoolwork, but for their self-esteem too. So what's the official process here in Turkey? It's basically a 3-step journey. Step 1, set up a meeting with your child's teacher and the school's guidance counselor. They see your child every day and have really valuable observations. Step 2, they will almost certainly guide you to your local RAM. That's the Guidance and Research Center for some initial specialized tests. And finally, step 3, the final official diagnosis can only be made by a child psychiatrist. They're the only ones who can make that formal determination. Okay, so once you have a diagnosis, or heck, even while you're waiting for one, your role at home is incredibly powerful. You have the ability to turn your home into a place of support and learning, and you can use the same core ideas that the experts recommend. Pretty much all the experts agree that an approach called Orton-Gillingham is the gold standard. It sounds kind of fancy, but it was designed specifically for the way the dyslexic brain learns. And the best part is, its main principles are things you can absolutely start using at home. The first big idea is to make learning multisensory. What does that mean? It means you've got to engage more than just their eyes and ears. Get their hands involved. Let your child trace letters in a tray of sand or even some shaving cream in the bathtub. Use magnetic letters on the fridge to build words. When learning becomes physical like that, the brain forges much stronger connections. Second, this approach is all about building blocks. It's super structured. You start with the absolute basics, like the sound of a single letter, and you don't move on until your child has really mastered it. Every new skill is built directly on the one that came before. It's methodical, which is great because it means it's not a race to the finish line. And the third principle is to be direct and clear. The rules of language can seem totally random to a child with dyslexia. So instead of letting them guess, you teach the rules explicitly. You actually explain why a letter makes a certain sound in a word. This takes away all the confusion and helps them build a really solid foundation for how language actually works. Now, beyond these teaching methods, your emotional and practical support is just everything. Keep reading aloud to your child. It builds their vocabulary and, hopefully, a love for stories. Set up a calm, quiet spot for homework. Help them break down big projects into smaller, manageable steps. And maybe most importantly, praise their effort, not just the grade. Celebrate every small win along the way. All right, let's zoom out for a minute. Getting a dyslexia diagnosis isn't the end of a story. Not at all. It's the beginning of a brand new chapter. One where you get to help your child unlock their incredible, unique potential. This is something every parent needs to know. Your child has legal rights. With a formal diagnosis, they are entitled to what's called a Personalized Education Program, or a BEP, at school. It also means they can get accommodations in big exams, like getting extra time or having someone read the questions out loud. These aren't special advantages. They are essential tools to level the playing field so your child can show what they truly know. And if you or your child ever start to feel discouraged, I want you to remember this. Your child is in some pretty amazing company. Many of the world's most creative, brilliant, world-changing thinkers are thought to have had dyslexia. It's often linked with these incredible strengths in problem-solving, creativity, and seeing the big picture. And that really leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. Understanding the challenges is crucial, of course, but the real journey is about shifting the focus. It's about finding what makes your child light up, nurturing their passions, whether it's in art or science or sports, and helping them see that their different way of thinking isn't a weakness. It just might be their greatest strength.